When I first read the script of our show this week, I was so impressed that I called the author and asked his reasons for writing such a strong and most unusual play. Here is his answer. I'd like to read it to you, if I may. If we love our country, we must believe in its strength. Primarily, our sense of law and justice. We must not fail in either, for after us come the monsters. I think you'll agree with that fundamental truth, especially after you've seen our play entitled The Court-Martial of Captain Wycliffe. Appearing with me will be an extraordinary group of guest stars, including Dina Merrill, Ed Begley, James MacArthur, Charles Ruggles, Robert Keith, Robert Webber, Alexander Scurvy, and Edward Andrews.
A few years ago, I made a motion picture with an actress who was so lovely that she took your breath away. In fact, she was so beautiful that I doubt if anyone ever even noticed me on the screen. The picture was Cry Danger, and the actress was Rhonda Fleming. Ever since then, being a normal American male, I've wanted to do another show with her. So this week, it's my pleasure to appear with Rhonda in a play entitled John J. Dick. I'll be back in just a moment.
Good evening. A few years ago, a friend of mine, a movie talent scout, was driving through Portland, Oregon. He had his car radio tuned to a local station, and he heard a girl singing one of the popular songs of the day. Her voice was so big that it almost knocked him out of the car. He was so impressed that he drove right to the station to meet her. You can imagine how he felt when the girl with the huge voice turned out to be a tiny little 5-footer, as pretty as a china doll. He rushed her right to Hollywood and into a big fat contract. The girl's name was Suzanne Burse, but the studio decided she needed a name with more pizzazz. So they chose the last name of Powell, naming her after one of the handsomest, most debonair, most talented leading man of our time, William Powell. Oh, well. The girl, of course, is the lovely Jane Powell. And tonight, Janie and I will appear together in a play entitled View from the Eiffel Tower. Oh, just so you won't get confused, we both sing, you know. Janie is the Powell with the cute figure. We'll be back in just one moment. The American motion picture has long been a worldwide entertainment medium. To achieve this, the Hollywood producers not only used American actors, but brought to this country some of the greatest of foreign talents. Stars like Sweden's Ingrid Bergman, England's Laurence Olivier, and Italy's Sophia Loren became as famous in our country as they were in their own. Our play this week, entitled Out of the Night, gives me the chance to bring some more foreign talent to your attention. In fact, there's so many countries represented in our show that we feel like the United Nations Assembly of Television. Among those appearing with me will be Miss Ziva Rodann of Israel, Mr. John Van Drielen of Holland, Mr. Martin Brandt of Germany, and little Anna Brunolina of Italy.
Good evening. I'm June Allyson, and welcome to the Dick Powell Theater. Our play this week, entitled Project X, is an exciting drama of the space age. It takes us into the fascinating world of the men who launch our rockets and missiles. Our stars will be Michael Rennie, Gena Rowlands, and special guest star Steve Forrest. After a moment, we'll be back with Act One of Project X.
Some of the greatest motion pictures ever made have dealt with our prisons and the men behind the walls. I'm sure many of you remember such fine movies as The Last Mile, Angels with Dirty Faces, The Big House, and many, many others. This week, our play entitled The Doomsday Boys is a most unusual and exciting story of prison life. And appearing with me will be Peter Falk. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Peter for winning the Emmy Award. As many of you may know, Peter won the award for another of our shows, The Price of Tomatoes. It's nice to have him back with us. And so in just one moment then, Peter and I will return with Act One of The Doomsday Boys.
I'm David Niven, and it's my pleasure to be your host this week for the Dick Powell Theatre. Our play is entitled The Judge, and if I'm any judge of good entertainment, I think you'll find it most interesting and most provocative. Our star has long been one of Hollywood's most versatile actors, Mr. Richard Basehart. Co-starring with him will be Nico Minados, Mary Murphy, Otto Kruger, and Ed Binns. So in just 1 minute, we'll be back with Act One of The Judge.
Good evening, I'm Charles Boyer, and it is indeed a pleasure for me to welcome you to the Dick Powell Theatre. Our show this week is entitled The Losers. It is a most unusual story. It takes us to Hondo, Texas, and affords us a closer look at the modern and still sometime untamed West. Our cast is pretty unusual, too. Lee Marvin, Keenan Wynn, and special guest star Miss Rosemary Clooney. By the way, I was in Europe when this was filmed, so I'm particularly anxious to see the show myself.
Good evening. I'm in a rather sticky kind of a predicament this week. My guest star is not only one of my dearest friends, but he's also one of our vice presidents here at Four Star. If I say the wrong thing about him, he may stomp out of the studio with his share of the paper clips. Seriously, though, it's very easy for me to say only nice things about Charles Boyer. I personally think that Charles is one of the finest actors in our industry. And there's no denying that he's the nicest present France has sent us since the Statue of Liberty. And by the way, if you haven't seen his remarkable performance in the movie Fanny, you're really missing something. He's wonderful. So now it's my pleasure to present Charles Boyer in our play entitled The Prison. Appearing with Charles is a very fine actor I had the pleasure of directing in the movie The Enemy Below, Mr. Theodore Bikel. In just one moment, we'll be back with Act One of The Prison.
Good evening. I'm Charles Boyer, and it is my pleasure to be your host this week on the Dick Powell Theater. It is really a double pleasure for me, as our star this week has long been one of my favorite actors, Mr. Henry Fonda. I'm sure none of us will ever forget his wonderful performances in such great pictures as The Grapes of Wrath, The Oxbow Incident, and Mr. Roberts. He's certainly one of the most versatile actors to ever appear on the Hollywood scene. Starring with Mr. Fonda will be Emmy Award winner, the very lovely Miss Polly Bergen. So in just 1 minute, we'll be back with Act One of Tissue of Hate, starring Henry Fonda and Polly Bergen.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good evening. If I appear a little nervous this evening, I hope you'll forgive me. You see, our play entitled A Time to Die marks the debut of two very young actors who are quite close to me. My son, Ricky, and my daughter, Pamela. Being 11 and 13, respectively, I thought it was about time they helped carry some of the load. In fact, this evening, you're going to be up to your eyeballs in pals because one of our guest stars also eats breakfast with us every morning. Her name is her name is June Allyson. So now you know why I'm nervous. If you don't like our show, the whole Powell family will be back doing a remake of 42nd Street. To help round out our family affair, I've asked some of our good friends to join us. I'm happy to welcome as our guest stars, and I'll name them alphabetically, June Allyson, Edgar Bergen, John Saxon, Ernest Truex, Tuesday Well, and Andy Williams. In just one moment, Act One of A Time to Die.
Some years ago in Semley, England, a young vacuum cleaner salesman decided to take a crack at the theater. And when he arrived in London, he wrangled an interview with an American motion picture producer who was about to start filming Marie Antoinette, starring John Barrymore and Norma Shearer. Our salesman not only got the part, but after the picture was released, believe it or not, he was nominated for the Academy Award. Since that Cinderella beginning, Robert Morley has appeared in over 100 movies, including one of my favorites, The African Queen. I don't think any of us will ever forget his amazing performance. Mr. Morley also has written some of our theater's finest plays, including the unforgettable Edward, My Son. And so it's indeed a pleasure to welcome Robert Morley to our show. Co-starring with him will be one of Hollywood's all-time favorites, the very lovely and talented Miss Joan Blondell. We'll be back in just a moment then with Act One of The Big Day.
Our guest star this week is a former singer turned actor. And as president of that club, I wish to welcome John Payne to the fold. John started his career in Roanoke, Virginia by singing in a local band on a 15-minute radio show. Shortly after, he fulfilled a lifetime dream by enrolling at the famous Juilliard School of Music in New York City. He didn't get paid there, so in order to make grocery money while he was studying, he did a little professional wrestling on the side, got $25 a match. If there's anything I never could stand, it was a singer with muscles. Oh, well. Anyway, John finally hit Broadway and then Hollywood with such pictures as Garden in the Moon, Stardust, Ten Pan Alley, and other great musicals. For the past few years, John has stashed the songs and concentrated on straight acting roles, and I'm sure I don't have to recount his successes. So it's a pleasure to welcome John Payne to our show in a play entitled Borderline. Starring with him will be the very lovely and talented Miss Hazel Court. In just one moment, then, we'll be with Act One of Borderline.
Good evening. I'm Milton Berle, and it's my pleasure to be your host this week on the Dick Powell Theater. Our play entitled Charlie's Duet takes us to the most unusual and exciting nightclub you've ever visited, the Chez Charles. The music is great, the service is just terrible, and there's a gambling room upstairs where if you're lucky enough to avoid a police raid, you can lose your next week's paycheck. Your host at the Chez Charles will be our star, Mr. Tony Franciosa. The vocalist, our co-star, Miss Julie London, and surrounding Tony and Julie is the wildest group of characters you've ever met. Special guest stars, Jim Backus, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Jules Munchin, Cesar Romero, and James Gregory. After a moment, we'll be back with Act One of Charlie's Duet.
Evening. If I appear a little shook up tonight, you'll have to forgive me. Our play, entitled The Clocks, is a story of the supernatural. And I just can't get used to ghosts filtering through the stage doors. Actually, though, tales of the supernatural have always been popular in literature and movies. I'm sure you remember such frightening pictures as The Uninvited, The Mask, and, oh, there were a lot of them. Well, tonight, close your windows, lock your doors, turn out the lights, and get set for The Clocks. It seems to be getting a little cold in here. I think I'll call my kids and have them join me. They're not afraid of anything. Except maybe losing a twist contest. So, in just one moment, we'll bring you Act One of The Clocks.